Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Chronicle. Welcome back to another Yap session as well. It's been quite a while since I've made one of these. I expected them to be a more regular thing on the channel, but I guess I just never got around to it. I know there's a couple things that I've been really wanting to talk about, but I never think about it outside of the moment. Um, yeah, because I know I've got was it? I remember the first thumbnail I made for one of these Yap sessions. I put the text similar to how I do on the weekly report, where it's like a block of text and then a number. But then it was in green. The background text of the little text box was in green. I was like, okay, whenever I make a Yap session, I'm gonna make the text box green. That way, they're color coded. Um, I don't know how many series realistically I would do that for, because I would need to have multiple different series where I'm just talking in front of the camera. But yeah, I can't think of any more than two, which is the reports and then the Yap sessions. And I see Azula moving in the background. Don't don't chew on my MacBook cord again. Don't do that. She did that when I first got it. I thought she was gonna electrocute herself and explode. Um, I've never seen her stick her head in there before. Hopefully she's not eating anything. Zula, okay. Keep your mouth away from the electronics, please. Okay, we'll leave her alone. Anyway, today's Yap session is about the Wii U Gamepad. This will happen because one time during my weekly report, I talked about how I had lore with the Wii U Gamepad. And then my dad texted me and he was like, "What's your lore with the Wii U Gamepad?" And yeah, that's definitely an overdramatic way of saying it. Um, but the lore is really just that I used it a lot. But one thing I thought when he asked me was "Don't you remember?" Because we had this whole complex system. I'm still looking at Azula right now. Okay, we had this I'm so afraid she's gonna chew on a cord. Okay, we had this whole complex system at my dad's house when we were younger, when we were kids, right? I think I was a preteen for sure. I want to say younger than 12 is probably when this happened. Okay, there she goes. She's leaving. I want to say I was younger than 12. I'm pretty sure. If I've got my timeline straight in my head, I think about the time that this happened, I was younger than 12, right? I don't even think I was in high school. Yeah, definitely younger than 12. Anyway, so at my dad's house, we had a screen rotation. It was written on the side of the fridge with dry erase marker, and it had a list of all the screens in the house. We had the computer, we had two iPads, Dad's iPad and Grandpa's iPad, and then I believe we also had the TV. Now, there were four screens, but there was five children. But the thing is I'm pretty sure at this point, my older sister had her own phone, right? So she was excluded from the screen rotation because she had her, screen that was hers, right? But to ensure maximum fairness with the screens and their usage, we had the screen rotation. And I say fairness because not all of the devices were equal, of course, right? Like with the computer, you can play games, watch whatever you want on the internet. With the TV, you could stream movies, and then with the iPads, those have their own games as well, which the computer might not have because it's mobile. And then also the iPads, the age difference of those iPads was so great that I think there were some apps that didn't work on both of them, right? So maybe one app would work on the other, but not one. Anyway, so in that rotation, I believe, well, yeah, I think it was computer, two iPads, and the TV. And the TV was whatever console you had hooked up. We had an Xbox One, and a Wii U. I don't think we had anything else actually. And I'm pretty sure the gamepad could operate independently from the TV. Anyway, at some point during the screen rotation, man, I'm trying to give there's context I'm leaving out, but I'm trying to move it along. Okay, so screen rotation, we got the names of the children, we got the PC, the iPads, the TV. Now, it was mostly me and my older brother on the computer, and then it was usually my younger siblings on the iPads. Um, and one thing I was thinking, I was during this rotation, wouldn't I have tried to be on the computer the whole time? So then how did I end up on the gamepad the whole time? That part I'm not honestly sure about. Maybe I just wasn't quite as into computer gaming at the time, which is kind of a shocker to me, honestly, because I was because I know that I've been computer gaming since I was before I was able to read. That's not an exaggeration. That is not an exaggeration. I was playing computer games before I knew how to read, or spell, or write, or any of that. Before I was literate. Anyway, so at some point with the screen rotation, I ended up as the only one who had their name written below the Wii U Gamepad. And that was because I was just on it like all the time. Because like the way my brain works is if I have something, then that's like enough for me. I've kind of been like, I'm not sure why I did this, or like maybe it was subconscious or what. Like I don't know if this was entirely intentional, but like my whole life I've been accustomed to like the bare minimum, right? Like I still have a twin size bed. At one point, all my siblings started upgrading their beds, and I was like, why am I not getting an upgrade, right? Like they were getting like full size beds, and then my dad, he was like, hey bud, you want a bigger bed? And I was like, I don't think so. Like I feel like I should have said yes, but at the same time I've already got a nice mattress topper on it, and like I didn't really want to go through like everything that came with getting a bigger bed because it's like, well, then you got to get a bigger frame and you got to build the frame and put it on there, right? Um, I've talked about why I keep my twin size bed before, so I won't go into detail. But yeah, as long as I had something, in this case the Wii U Gamepad, I was kind of like perfectly happy and satisfied. Like I would watch. I mostly used it as a YouTube machine, right? Because the gamepad could run YouTube, and also the Wii U Gamepad. If you don't know, it's about. I'm trying to remember its size because it felt very big, but I was also like I said, like 10 years old, so maybe it wasn't quite as big as I think. But I want to say it was a gamepad. So this is my adult head. I want to say it was about this big, right? And this is like the entire gamepad, right? The screen would have been about like, right? I think about that big, if I'm getting that right. Um, and I mostly used it as a YouTube machine, because as long as I had something, I was happy. So at some point, no one else was writing their name behind the gamepad, and then my siblings would usually switch off on the iPads, and then my older brother would play computer like all day. And now I know that kind of makes us sound like iPad kids, but we definitely weren't. Okay, believe it or not, me and my siblings were not iPad kids. Yes, we were on our screens a lot, but like the content and the internet at that time, way different than it is today. Like on YouTube, short form content like didn't exist. There was no shorts, there was no scrolling. It was all like long form content, which means you were pretty much always consciously consuming your YouTube and your content, which I think is the big difference between like now and then, right? The iPad kids of today versus the iPad kids, like me and my siblings. Like we all were very aware of what we were watching. We weren't just scrolling and liking, there was no doom scrolling, no AI slop, right? And also, actually, I should mention in the screen rotation, there were multiple regular, I think, screen breaks per day, where like once the house would get quiet and my dad would walk around and see that everyone had like an iPad or I had the gamepad or brother was on the computer, he'd be like, "Okay, screen break, everyone stop, no more screens for like an hour." And we had, like I said, I think it was multiple of those per day, at least one for sure. Um, and yeah, that was kind of like what life was like at my dad's house at the time. Now we could go outside and play. We had a trampoline and we used it a lot. Usually during those screen breaks. But like the difference, I think there was a big difference because, like I said, that was always at my dad's house. We had that screen rotation system. Because at mom's house, we lived in a nice neighborhood. We could go outside. All of our friends were there, right? At dad's house, we lived in Kansas City, Kansas, and one of our siblings got threatened with a metal pipe. Right, so it's not the most pleasant place to be. So we kind of spent more of our time inside on our screens, and yeah, I just ended up with the gamepad a lot. Like I said, I watched YouTube. That was where I found one of the channels that I watched a lot at the time. Stumped. They played local co-op four-player games, and then one of the members of that channel split off. Well, actually, they didn't technically split off. They all have their own independent channels as well. But I remember she played this game called Headlander, and I remember sitting cross-legged. I think I would usually hit this pose, right? I would sit cross-legged, and I would like lean on my knees like this, and I would just like kind of stare down at the gamepad. Probably really bad for my posture. And I'm surprised my posture isn't worse. I have been like thinking about it recently in recent years because at work I try and stand up straight when I'm just like on the machine hitting the lever over and over again. Um, but yeah, I remember doing that. I was sitting on that couch, that like You know, it was like it wasn't like a gross couch. It was an old couch. Uh, but and like it to me it was nice, but like it was an old couch, which means it's kind of like the dirt's in there, you know what I'm saying? And it's probably not coming out. Like of course we cleaned it, you know, it wasn't disgusting by any means. But it was like it was an old couch, you know, so it's like you can never really trust the cleanliness of it. But I remember sitting on that couch. I loved that couch. Pretty sure I slept on that couch a lot because I need someone to correct me, one of my siblings or my parents, my dad, I should say. I think there might have been a point between my dad getting his own house and us moving in there. I think there was a point where I didn't have a bed and I just slept on one of the couches because I think he had slept on a futon at the time. Like I said, it was I think that might have just been a transitional period where I didn't have a bed and I slept on a couch. And that was one of the couches that I slept on. Um, but yeah, I need someone to verify that for me. Was there a point where we didn't have beds at Dad's house? Like I said, if we did, it was a very brief period because I know we had beds there for sure. Um, anyway, I remember watching the Wii U Gamepad a lot. People would stop writing their name behind it because no one wanted to use it. Because like on the Wii U Gamepad, there wasn't much you could do. We had a few games for the Wii. Actually, I think they were for the Wii and not the Wii U, which meant that like they were a little bit worse. And like also it was a console, meaning you would usually need multiple people to play with you. You know, back then before because I don't think the Wii U had. Actually, I guess it did have online features for a couple of games. But like most of the games you would play on the Wii U were local co-op with other people, and the other people, being my siblings in the house, didn't want to play with me. That's kind of a consistent theme in my childhood. Is that like nobody wants to play video games with me, which is like fairly sad, I will admit. But like it wasn't the worst, and a little bit unrelated to the story. But yeah, I would use the Wii U gamepad a lot. That's it. Bye. No, I'm kidding. Um, I'm trying to give more context to like fully flesh out the story. But we would be at my dad's house. We would have a lot of free time. I should actually. This is a very important detail. We had a lot of free time because we were homeschooled. Specifically, we were a subcategory of homeschoolers called unschoolers, which just meant like without getting into too much detail, we had a lot of free time. And like I said, in Kansas City, Kansas, at Dad's house, going outside wasn't the most pleasant or maybe safest thing to do. So we spent a lot of our time, you know, indoors on the screens. Not too much, because you know our dad would give us the screen breaks. Um, but I remember at some point looking at the faded screen rotation, and I remember seeing my name on the list, and like no one else's name was behind it because no one wanted to play on the Wii U gamepad. And I was like very satisfied with that. I was like, yes, I get it all to myself. Now I can watch all the YouTube. I remember watching Jacksepticeye. I remember like I would sometimes go back and watch like his older series. I remember having a lot of fun with that. And then, oh yeah, actually, one thing, the screen rotation. It was called rotation because, of course, it would like move. So like you would write your name. I think we would write our names behind the screen that we wanted, and then every half hour or hour, we would then switch. Right. So like every hour or half hour, the younger siblings would swap iPads, and then I would get on the computer, and then my older brother would like go do something else. Like I said, I don't know what he did. I remember him playing the computer a lot. I think at that time I was a little bit less into the computer gaming. So he would probably just be on that, and then I would be on the gamepad. Um, and that's it. I think that's it. Closing remarks. Wasn't an iPad kid. Had a lot of fun on that Wii U gamepad. And yeah, I do wonder like, did my dad like did he forget about that? The whole screen rotation system? Like that was a whole thing, and the screen breaks. And then like another thing about the screen break was like we had a friend. We did have one friend in Kansas City, Kansas. He was like he lived down the street, and like he wouldn't get to play on the screens either. So like if him and the younger brother were on Xbox, screen break. Now even the kid that doesn't live with us can't play. He didn't have a phone of his own, so like it didn't really matter. Um, but yeah, when screen break would be called, we would get off. And now I feel like I'm rambling on, but I think that's it. I just feel weird to end it so abruptly, but I guess this is kind of how I end the Chronicle episodes. Anyway, but yeah, I'm sure someone, maybe my parents or siblings, will have follow up questions. Oh, speaking of which, actually, I'll leave that for the Chronicle. Okay, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Bye.